Welcome to the Author Corner, our chance to meet the authors you'll want to read. I'm Stephanie, and I'm so delighted to be joined today with author Antoinette Truglio Martin, the author of Daily Bread. It's a story for middle grade readers, but even our adults are going to absolutely love it. Antoinette, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
I am so thrilled to have you, and what a great story this is. But let's bring us back to the beginning. How did you get started writing?
Oh, I've been writing. I've always wanted to be a writer when I grow up.
Really?
That's always been what I had to do. But you know, one must be practical.
I don't believe in practical. You know that.
But
really, you were a little girl and you wanted to be a writer?
Yeah, I in my composition notebooks had terrible poems and stories, and I used to make the greeting cards and all. So I was always writing. Always kept a journal.
I had no idea. Have you kept a journal since you were a girl?
I did, but I don't have them because my mother cleans things out.
No.
So I really don't have my old ones, but I've kept.
You keep a journal today?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. You
Yeah.
know, that's one of the things I always say, writers should keep journals. I don't, but writers should keep journals.
Yeah, no, it keeps the writing juices going.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah. So yeah, there's, you know.
I can't believe Mom threw away the old ones.
I don't think she knew what they were. I think that everything was in a box, and
Yeah, I
Yeah.
get that.
yeah, my time had expired there, so
My
there you go.
gosh. So you always wanted to be a writer.
Writer.
What did you, since you weren't a writer from day one and you were practical, what was the practical
Yeah,
choice?
well, I'm a speech therapist, and worked in early intervention for a long time, most of my career, and had just recently retired as a special ed teacher in the schools. So did special ed, speech, and had done that for almost 40 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it gave you lots more time to be writing.
Yeah, I did a lot of writing, and then raising kids and nieces and nephews, and big family has lots of fodder.
I'm sure the family has fodder, which is why
Yeah.
the book. Now, in the story, it's about an immigrant family in lower Manhattan.
Right.
So what inspired that? Is that your family?
It's my family. My grandmother was a great storyteller, and around the table she would come up with these stories. Some not so happy, but every now and then she had a great story about her childhood. And after doing a little bit of research, I'm realizing she's talking about the Lower East Side, Little Italy on Mott Street. And this was a story that she told when she was 10. And she got to, there was a Jewish baker on the corner who allowed children to come in early in the morning and learn to bake bread. And but the deal was you came early in the morning, prepared the dough, went to school, and at lunchtime you come back, knead the dough, shape it, go back to school, and then come back at the end of the day. You could buy a loaf of bread for 3 cents instead of the regular 5 cents. So even though
So he had free labor and he was still selling
Right.
bread.
Well, it was just the family bread. Just
Okay.
they're just making one loaf of bread.
Right.
You had to be a certain height so you could reach the table,
Right.
so that you're not knocking bowls over, and you had to. What it sounded like, he was looking for an apprentice.
Yes.
He didn't have children, and his wife doted on the children. She would make them a special breakfast roll and had something for them for lunch.
Nice.
She didn't want to see anybody hungry, and they lived in a bakery, so everybody should have at least a piece of bread. So, so it was a big attraction.
And the children would feel like they were contributing to their family because they could get this bread. At
Yeah,
a
so
discount.
it was
honor.
considered the big help. It was a big kid thing to do.
Wow.
So my grandmother was the eldest of 5 daughters, and the middle one in there kept tagging along, and she was cute and pretty and red hair, blue eyes, and she twirled around and danced, and the baker's wife just loved her and wanted her to also learn to bake bread, but she was really too little. And but now the oldest sister, my grandmother Margaret, had this tag-along sister with her.
Ah, so your grandmother was the older sister in the
yes,
story.
she was the
Now I
oldest
know.
sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, how
Yeah.
exciting.
But what I was able to do is to weave in some traditions that immigrants did come to the New World with, you know, how they named their kids, what they were allowed to do, especially girls, what they were expected. I know with a lot of families that came, especially Jewish families, they revered education. Some of the laboring Italian families from Sicily and lower southern Italy area, especially for girls, education was not a priority. If you know how to read and write and figure out numbers, you're good enough.
Right.
They wanted them to go to work because that's what America offered, was work.
Work, right.
And an opportunity to be able to buy land and have a farm.
Right, right.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So that's all weaved in. And plus there's some actual historic history that goes on with the way unions were being organized, the way schools were educating children,
right.
and the way factories were working their people.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's a great way to learn about this time in history, but not through a history book.
Right, right. So I did a lot of research. The Tenement Museum was fabulous.
Oh.
Yeah, we all did the whole tours and everything, and they've been great with resources. And so, you know, it's been for me that was the fun.
Yes.
It was sifting through the research, what to include.
Yeah,
sort of
and it's kind of a memoir-esque family story in a historical fiction.
Right, right. So,
Fantastic.
you know, and bread is everybody's.
Bread is everything.
Everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, this is the first of the Becoming America's stories. So what else are in Becoming America's stories? Are there any things that have to do with cooking?
Yeah, we have some more food. Well, there's some food in here. We have a companion cookbook that's coming out, and that has some they're primarily family stories about food and about how food, you know, shapes the family and how they've evolved through time. You know, when they came over as immigrants, there was just so many resources, but they're looking for the same flavors, the same smells, the same feel of food, and how that evolved as time went on. And
now you're from that big Sicilian family that they're cooking all the time.
We cook all the time. Yeah. Our events are defined by what's on the table. And
I'm from the make a phone call and order something family, so
so much easier.
I mean, yes, but how wonderful to be around the table and to hear these stories. I mean, I'm loving that your grandmother told you these stories.
Yeah, they were, and I think that's what it was with my family, is that when you sat down, you listened, and you heard what went on. You know, who came back, what they're doing, what happened, all these things. Even, you know, when there's a disastrous event, on how this one or that one reacted and managed through. And yet there's food on the table to, you know, kind of work it through.
Yes.
And but what was really fun doing the cookbook is being able to sit down with my parents and my aunts and uncles and say, so how did Grandma make that braciole?
Oh my gosh,
and,
braciole.
Yeah, you know, so we, you know, so we're figuring that out. You know, the eggplant. You know, I can't make eggplant like her. You know, because foods change, but it's the end product is being able to just sit down as a family and enjoy it. And in Daily Bread, the family comes at the end of the day and sits down.
Yes.
And recaps their day, or they're just together, because, you know, basically this is who we have.
What a great thing.
Yeah.
To remind families that, you know, today we can still sit down.
Yeah, we can still sit down
and recap
and eat something.
And eat something.
Eat something.
Maybe not as good as my family's not Sicilian, so I don't think that we're eating as well.
Just eat a piece of cheese.
I mean, that's about it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
might need lessons looking
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
cookbook. You'll have to actually come over and help me with the recipes
Yeah,
there. But
Yes.
now I'm presuming that your grandmother is not here to read the book.
No, she isn't.
But I'm
Would have been-
guessing she read the book anyway.
One way or the other.
One way or the other.
Yeah.
She read the book and she's
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah.
Antoinette, you
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah.
You did it. You got the book out there. You got my story out there.
Yeah.
So there are other good family juicy stories?
Oh, there's a load. There's a
Oh, I love
load.
that.
There's a witch in the family. There's this one who
Ah.
comes back and,
A
there's
witch? You have a
million-
witch in the family?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I can't wait to read that book.
That's a good story. But yeah. So there's how they eventually managed to find their little piece of America
Yes.
and have their own Earth.
Oh.
That sort of thing, and what that meant.
And I'm not Sicilian, but it's all of our history.
It
I'm from New
is.
York. That's my history too.
And you hear about all these people who could trace their lineage back and all. I might be able to, but really it starts when they got on the ships.
Right.
And they took that leap of faith and risk, and
Right.
and to live in these horrible places, really,
Right.
and to make it their own, so that they could raise their children and have hope and this is a better life than it was
Yes.
back at home.
Wow.
So and to leave everybody behind.
Great story.
Yeah. So
Great story.
so that's quite, so I think a lot of, at least for my family, the beginnings are at Ellis Island.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Now talk to me as a writer.
Mm.
How was it writing this? What would you
This-
was it harder than you thought? Easier?
This was a joyful write.
Oh,
This
okay.
was a lot of fun. I love to do the research.
Okay.
I fell into a lot of rabbit holes. So, for days I'm looking up, were there bread machines in bakeries? How did they power it? That sort of thing in 1911. And,
Oh my gosh.
what kind of electricity went through the city at the time.
So
and
you are like a resource on 1911 now.
at least I'm
If you're on Jeopardy and the category is 1900s, you are like,
I'm there.
I got this.
Yeah, but it was, so for me, it was a lot of fun just going into it and trying to verify and all, and then to be able to weave the story around that, some details about the kids and about the family and how they lived. I had to change because it wasn't accurate.
Right.
So for that was the hardest part about writing it, but it was a lot of fun.
I'm glad you mentioned it though, because so many people won't think that research goes into fiction. Oh, it's fiction. I can make it all up. No.
No, I made up, the characters' personalities and whatnot, but the setting has to be true.
Right.
I'm even looking up weather reports,
Wow.
and to make sure I had the right
Right.
weather going on at the
Yes.
time. I don't want to be called on it.
Yeah, and you spoke about things that are absolutely, I mean, the streets are the streets. And in the book was the infamous Triangle Shirtwaist Factory
Yes.
fire, and that has to be reported as
Right. Yeah.
As it
And
occurred.
just the logistics of how did the kids get there?
right.
Yeah. Was there a trolley? Was there a subway? Was it there yet? Were they digging? All this.
You had to know the
all
right
this
the truth.
stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm so glad you
Yeah.
mentioned that, because people don't realize that we know if we're reading something.
Right.
And probably most of us have had that experience of reading something and saying,
It's when it's just not ringing right.
exactly.
Yeah. The other fun thing I was looking up was slang.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. What pop culture
Right.
slang was going on? Nobody said cool. The kids don't say cool, but they'll say keen. Or one character's well dressed, and they called him a dandy dresser.
Dandy dresser.
And so things like that, and that was a lot of fun looking up those little slang pieces,
Right.
especially
right.
for a family that was just learning
Oh, I'm
how to
so glad you're
communicate
mentioning that.
English. So it's so I
It's
thought it
true.
gave a little more depth
language has changed and
Oh,
evolved.
yes.
I mean, even from, 10 years ago,
Yes.
language has changed and evolved, but certainly you're writing about 100 years ago.
Right, right. Yeah, and all these words on how different it means, the different meanings they have.
Right.
So, so for that, it's a fun series. I love writing for children. I find kids to be, so enthusiastic when they read something that puts them in a different time and place, and yet it's an accessible bit of history. I mean, you can look up New York City.
Yes.
And see what it had looked
But
like.
reading a story and getting pulled into the characters, and that makes it so, what a way to learn.
Right. And also I think it gives children and people, everybody else, a chance to realize that the time that we live in now is historic.
Oh boy.
Especially now.
But yes.
The time that we live in now is historic, and in years to come,
Right, somebody will be writing this.
yeah, we'll take our characters and put them in this setting, and there are stories, and we are living the stories of of the time.
So behave yourself,
yeah,
folks.
watch out.
They're going to be writing about us in someday.
Yes,
Better behave ourselves.
Yeah.
So it sounds like writing historical fiction for children is in your blood.
Yes. Well, writing for children. I have, in 1993, I published a children's picture book called Famous Seaweed Soup, and basically about a beach day that we always had done, and the kids making seaweed soup. And that was a great little book, and it had a nice long life for a while. So, but it's now out of print. But I loved doing that book because I was able to go into schools and read it, and picture books are treasured.
Yes.
And they're kept and they're passed down.
Absolutely.
So now I'm getting the children of the children
Nice.
reading the books that their parents had as children. So that's always fun.
Have you ever thought about writing in a different genre, just for fun?
Just for fun. Well, I did a memoir, and I did Hug Everyone You Know, and that was my first year with cancer. And I didn't like writing that one.
Okay.
Because, it was a hard subject. I just felt that I needed to.
Okay, I was going to ask, why write it if you didn't like writing it?
I needed to. At the time, I was re-diagnosed with stage 4, so I figured I have minimal time left. And
that was in 19?
This was in 2012.
2012.
And the book was published in 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you had minimal time. And
I felt I had minimal time.
I was going to say, and you're sitting here with me right now.
I'm fine now.
I'm
good.
delighted.
No, I'm good. I'm good. This is stage 4.
This is, yes.
Yeah, this is stage 4.
I'm loving
this. So I'm
this.
managing pretty well.
Delighted.
Thanks to Memorial Sloan Kettering.
Oh.
But, so I wanted to write something.
Yes.
So that my girls would know. And
yes.
But that was done. Other genres, I don't know. I've been so immersed in this. This is great. I've done, I've been dabbling with doing workbooks for children, with journal writing.
I mean, as a teacher, I can see that you
because
love.
I got to do something that way. Got to be practical. And
I don't know. I thought you were Sicilian. They didn't.
Yeah, you didn't have to, but yeah, you do. But I do like the children's stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe I'll try YA. I'll step it
push
up.
Push it a little bit.
Just step it up a little bit.
We're not going full into adult. We'll just go a little, maybe. You don't have to.
You never know.
Just asking the question if you ever felt like there's, this crazy romance that's floating around in the back of your head or something.
Something. Yeah, we'll see. But right now I'm going to be pretty busy with this.
You are going to absolutely be very busy with this.
Get
You don't
book
have
2
time.
going.
No time for romance.
No. Yeah.
And actually, the best children's books are, as this is, for adults to read along with
Yes.
them. And whether it's an adult who's reading aloud, now I wanted to ask you about that because you're a teacher as well, but also for the teacher. If the teacher hates the book, if the teacher is not finding nuance and character, they're not going to want to do this.
They're not going to want to do it. And as I was writing the book, I was very conscious of, is a teacher going to want to sit down with the kids crowded around her and read this book? There are no, there's no pictures.
Right.
But there are some incredible bits of, incredible literature.
Right.
That kids will just eat up in a read aloud.
Yes.
And I think this is one of them.
Yes. Well, it's a good thing that you're a teacher because you know what children are like, and you know that dynamic in a classroom.
Right.
Also, because you've worked now with what age groups were you working?
Mostly elementary school.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had babies, and then when I went to the public school, I was in elementary school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are well versed in.
I'm seasoned.
Seasoned.
Seasoned teacher. Yeah.
I think seasoned is a cooking word.
Yeah,
and
well,
you are all about the
we know
food.
how to put it all together.
You're all about the food as well.
Yeah. The food is fun.
Now, you just mentioned the word journaling, and I wanted to bring us back to that because you have journaled, and as much as I say that one should, I've never done it myself. Why do you think it's a good idea, and what would you recommend how we start?
For me, journaling is my way of expression. It's I can rehearse words I need to say aloud with it. I can get out all the rage and the anger and the confusion and all that. It is the best therapist I've ever had.
Wow. And it's free.
And it's free at any time, so it will be there whenever I'm ready. I like it because it gives me permission to be by myself and in my head by myself without having to worry about anything else. And I can close the book and come back to it whenever I need to. So yes, it's cathartic, and it just when I don't journal for a couple of days, I feel it.
Really?
I feel that I'm just not right, and I have to go back to it. It's a way to be grounded. It's my way of grounding. It's not everybody's way, but it's my way. Wow. And what I did for the kids, especially during this pandemic time that we have been living in, the kids had been home, and teachers are scrambling for activities and whatnot. So I put out thoughts gleaned while quarantined.
Ooh,
prompts.
Wow. Thoughts gleaned while quarantined.
So I
that.
put up some primary and intermediate prompts for kids to just kind of think about and put down on paper, be it a sentence or long paragraphs. I gave it out to my little neighborhood children. I had a 5-year-old that drew incredible pictures.
Wow.
And did a nice job, and the others filled the book. So it was great. Yeah, so I liked doing that, so that I felt like I was contributing.
Fantastic.
A little bit.
So if I or any of our viewers wanted to start journaling, how do we start?
Oh, well, you need to find a book you like to hold and carry around with you. Any type of notebook.
They make pretty ones now,
They make very pretty ones. If you like inspirational things, great, but it's a very personal choice. Same thing with pens and pencils and whatever. It has to be a personal choice. It has to be a personal choice as to where you like to sit. It depends on the temperature, where I'm sitting.
I get that.
Or if you like to be bundled in a blanket or, in your bed at night. And just kind of maybe recap the day. And I always start with a weather report.
Oh, do you really? Interesting. Well, you know what I like about that? Sometimes I would think that someone is faced with a blank page. And I speak to people about writer's block all the time. But you just said you start with the weather report. It gets the pen moving.
It just makes the pen move. the date is standard, and the weather report is just a matter of looking out the window.
Right.
And then it goes from there. I never really seem to need prompts. Lots of people, most people do like a prompt. They like a theme.
Okay.
They like to, I've usually got so much going. I got to get it out now, and that'll take care of my prompt. But some people do like to have some focus and a theme going on, which is great.
Right.
But there's a million sites.
Wow.
With themes and prompts to look for. Either you're looking for a spiritual uplift or just a way to chronicle your days or
Right.
whatever. But
Now, the prompts that you put out, are those on your website at Story Served?
yes, they are. It's in the Journal On menu tag.
Okay, and it's stories.
Stories served around the table. www.storyserved.com.
Storiesserved.com. Very cool. So we can get our writing prompts.
You can get your prompts.
Because some of us are going to not do much after the weather.
Yeah, well, and that's okay. Yeah, you put your plans in, make a list.
Yeah, well, just do something.
Yes, just something. It's in the handwriting.
Okay.
I think it's handwriting that really, kind of opens up some channels. It's a motor activity. And writing is, one of the higher cognitive functions we have as human beings. So, it's motor planning, there's sequencing, the whole thing. I think it's really good for the brain.
But we should do it with a pen, not on a computer.
Some people like computers.
But
I'm a little more old-fashioned, but I think handwriting.
I'm going with the pro here.
Yeah, I think handwriting opens up more creative channels.
Okay.
And when you look at it, you have a sense of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you could hold it.
Do you journal at the same time every day, or?
Usually in the morning.
Okay.
But sometimes, if I find, if I'm leaning on the counter waiting for something to boil, I'll write something down.
You sound like you're in the counter waiting for something to boil a lot. Well, you're going to have to come to my place and teach me how to cook with the cookbook.
We'll have fun.
Absolutely.
We'll cook.
Well, I am thrilled to have you on. And
thank you. This was a lot of fun.
Love the book. And if you'd like to read Daily Bread or get started journaling, because I love the lesson on journaling, storyserved.com to get some journaling prompts. I think I'm going to go shopping and get myself a pretty book after this. Antoinette, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
We're just books up on a shelf. Try to understand this if you can.